First off, I want to thank the brave men and women who work behind the wall. I want to thank them on a national level because their job goes unrecognized.
How do they try to turn a guard?
Well, correctional officer. Sorry, I apologize. But correctional officer.
How you guys doing today? It's Anthony Gangi. Welcome to another episode of Tier Talk. Guys, you know, in corrections, a lot of those that have worked in corrections have been forgotten during this COVID pandemic. Yes, we get people that work at a Walmart are being seen as heroes, but in the end, we have people that are working behind the wall that have been forgotten. Last year, we had this discussion with some heroes that represented one voice in the National Medal of Honor. So today, what we're going to do is we're going to kind of catch up. You know, what's happened in this year, where are we at now? And I'm really looking forward to this discussion. We got Andy Potter, who's representing One Voice, also part of the National Medal of Honor. Andy, how you doing, brother?
Not bad. How about yourself?
Doing good. Now, Andy, can you tell us a little bit about One Voice?
Yeah, first, I appreciate you letting us come on, Anthony, and be a part of your show and be able to tell a little bit of what we've got going on. So, you know, I live in Michigan. I've worked in Michigan's prisons. I was a corrections officer for over 2 decades, and I became the executive director for Michigan Corrections Organization. And right around 2016, I started to really notice how corrections and the landscape in corrections with reforms and everything else were just moving across the country. And mostly corrections officers and frontline staff, their voices weren't in that conversation. And it started to really bother me because those reforms and everything else moved so quickly past us that pretty soon you're just getting a piece of paper that says your job has changed and now these are the things you have to do. And I thought we needed a platform for corrections staff to be able to voice their opinion and get a seat at the table of reform and other correctional issues that hit us. So I founded One Voice, and right around the same time, Brian Dawe and myself started to work together. And it wasn't shortly after that, we're dealing with COVID that was sweeping itself across the country. And it was starting to take the lives of some of the men and women that do this difficult job of corrections. And we decided, instead of Brian just running ACOIN and myself running One Voice, we would come together and bring all those resources and all of that work together to make One Voice United and really broaden that platform for corrections officers to get into the conversation of corrections across the United States, bring our profession together where we can on the issues that we all agree on, and move those together as one voice, move those issues forward as a profession, as an industry. And I mean, corrections officers, maintenance, healthcare, teachers, we're all in this industry. And if we all have some of the same issues we align on, we should come together and move that forward together. So that's One Voice United. And that's what that's about.
Yeah, ACOIN's American Correctional Officer Intelligence Network. And guys, the links to these organizations, they're going to be in the description. And also, I want to put the link into the older episode we did a year ago. So guys, if you didn't get a chance to see that older episode, I would watch that first so you can see how much we have evolved. And guys, I've actually got a chance. We spent some time together in Oklahoma. And what was great about the One Voice initiative is it really does bring everybody together to speak about their concerns. So it's amazing how much we can get accomplished when civilians and custody are working together. Because again, just there's tremendous resources there that really could push for some really good change. And I think that's the key. We all want change that actually matters and not change based on unfair generalities. Hey, Bri, what's up, man? How's everything going with you?
Doing well. Thank you, Tony. Great to see you. Thanks for having us.
Of course. Now, Brian, can you just kind of, give us a little backstory on ACOIN and also the National Medal of Honor?
Sure. Well, ACOIN, the American Correctional Officers Intelligence Network, is now a part of One Voice. And we started ACOIN a long time ago, basically on very similar premises that Andy is working from. Our idea was to find best practices and share those ideas. And one of the things that we saw, one of our biggest problems, is a failure of perception about who we are in this industry. who the men and women are that do this job. And that led us to the beginning of what's called the Medal of Honor, the National Medal of Honor. We, there's always people recognizing the police and the firefighters, and God love them. They should be recognized. Our military, our soldiers, they do a phenomenal job. They put their lives on the line. And 7 o'clock every day, people are outside clapping their hands for them for, going to work every day and protecting our lives. But they're not out there clapping for correctional officers, not because they don't think we're important, although a lot of them don't. But a lot of them don't know who we are or what we do. And we felt that one of the things we could do to help showcase the incredible acts of heroism and courageousness and bravery that these men and women go through every day would be to honor them with the Medal of Honor. And so we began that process several years ago. And annually, we would actually honor 5 individuals, usually 3 officers, a supervisor, and a civilian, a staff member who went above and beyond the call of duty during the past year. Well, obviously with COVID-19, that changed quite a lot. We usually have a nice big event in Washington, D.C. We have a big conference, a banquet, awards dinner, et cetera. But that couldn't take place this year. And what else happened at the same time was one of the things we do at One Voice is every day when news breaks in the morning, we take a look at what's going on all over the web and see what's happening. And I was noticing, as that's part of what I do, I was noticing there was an awful lot of officers that were succumbing to COVID-19, or a lot of staff members that were succumbing to COVID-19. So we just started keeping a list just to take a look and see what was going on. As that list began to grow, we began to get more and more alarmed. And what can we do about this? We had tried to work with the Governors Association and other groups to get better PPE, get better access, get better information. Some of that worked, a lot of it didn't. And what we looked at was, well, the Medal of Honor, although we can't do it this year for those who have gone above and beyond and are still with us, the nominations committee and the Medal of Honor and the board of directors for One Voice got together and decided unanimously that what we should do this year is take the gold Medal of Honor and honor all those men and women, all those officers and supervisors who've succumbed to COVID-19 in the line of duty. On the average year, Tony, we lose about 11 officers and 11 staff to line of duty deaths. Last count with COVID-19 in the last 15 months, we're at 261. That's devastating. 15 months ago, those 261 men and women were going home to their families. They were doing the job. And every day they continued to go to work. And every day they put their lives on the line to protect the public. And many of them to this day aren't at home. If they haven't been vaccinated, or they have elderly people that are sick, or someone in their family that has an illness, they're still scared to death that COVID-19 could get them and their loved ones. It's still a constant pressure cooker for these men and women. And we thought really one of the only things that we could do, and one of the good things we could do, would be to honor them and their families and the facilities where they work. And that was the nexus in the beginning of this year's Medal of Honor.
And Tony, we know that along the way, there's been a lot of bumps in the road. This has been a monumental task to track down the names. And we had a committee of folks that Brian can speak about that really poured into this. Ed Sullivan and others really poured into it to try to track some of this stuff down. There's a chance that some of it might not be as accurate as we want it to be. And we know there's probably going to be people that throw stones at us over all of this. But if we don't do this for ourselves, if we don't come together as a profession and recognize the men and women who mostly get overlooked on every single day basis, if we don't do that for ourselves, nobody else is going to do that.
What's powerful about this, guys, and I always tell people that recognition, people are like, oh, recognizing, it's ego. It's not, guys. Recognizing brings an understanding to a very misunderstood profession, which will help us get the resources we need. Because it was just like a year ago, we didn't know which way to go. Mask, no mask. We were hit hard. And during that time, it really was the effort from the inside, reminding everybody, hey, don't forget about prisons, guys. And what they do, they went right to help out the inmates, forgetting that, hey, the workers still got to come into work, So it was great that we had that discussion, because I really do believe, because there's thousands of views on that video, I really do believe that it opened up definitely some good dialogue, but it also educated, because there were going to be some facilities that haven't faced it yet, that were getting ready to go into it. So we were able to share some practices and, because we were in survival mode. And what was crazy about that time too, is that I remember the first loss that we had, I remember it hitting us. It hit us. But I also remember that there needed to be a fight, not so much in our state, but in other states, where are these officers being recognized? And the sad thing was I was getting a lot of messages, and the officers that had fallen from COVID, it's like, well, you know what? You got to prove that they caught it in the facility. Guys, they were dedicated. They were coming to work every day. You should have to prove that they didn't. Give these warriors what they deserve. And I know that you guys mentioned that even to this date, not all the
lines of that fight.
Not all the officers that have fallen have been respected as a line of duty death, correct?
That's correct. We were on the front lines of that fight. We were in touch with the Public Safety Officers Benefit Plan. When they put out their initial memorandum on this, they did take the position that it would be up to the family of the surviving staff member to prove that it was related to the prison. However, it wasn't just our group. There were other groups too that lobbied them as well. But a lot of people got involved in trying to push that decision, and it was changed. And so that they now presume that if it's a COVID-19, if it's an officer that worked in the prisons, that they are now presuming that it is a COVID-19 LODD. So that's a big step forward.
Now, is that
another?
I'm sorry.
That's at any facility now?
That's federal. That will be for the PSOB on the federal level, which really, Tony, I think that's about a $370,000 benefit now to the surviving family. And also it includes college educational benefits for the surviving family members too. So you can never replace the loved one, obviously, but at least it's a benefit package that can help out in the immediate future and help the family get through. But let me add something I think that's really important that I certainly don't want to lose track of. That's all those officers that contracted COVID that did survive, but we don't know what the long-term impacts are going to be. So one of the things we're trying to raise awareness to with this Medal of Honor of going forward, and this is one of the mantras of One Voice, is looking forward, is going forward. What are we going to do to help these officers and their families if they continue to be sick or if they have repercussions later on? What are the arguments going to be against workers' comp? Who's going to step up for these officers across the country? Now, fortunately, in some states like Andy's and mine and yours, we have good, strong unions that can help. But there's so many states where they don't have any of that support. And someone needs to be there to step up for them. And we want everybody to know that if we can help, we will be there to help, whatever we can do. And we have to look really forward to those families as well. We can't do anything about those we've lost, unfortunately. Just honor them and memorialize them. But when it comes to moving forward, we have to be very, very right on top of this. We can't let this get away from us.
You know what's sad, Andy? I want to ask you something, because you figure that those that are on the higher level, they should know exactly what it is that we're going through. So this should be something that should be automatic. I mean, what are the obstacles here? Why is that not such easily understood?
To be frankly honest with you, I'm not sure if it's just because it's such a bureaucracy that one department, one state, local, or state or federal for that matter, they don't seem to coordinate anything. And they could recognize these men and women nationally if they really came together. And that's another point why it's so important for us to start to pull our profession together. Brian pointed out the loss of duty death and the benefits that come. We pulled together as an industry and pushed that until they changed that language around presumptive. That wouldn't have been done for us. There's no magical administration somewhere saying, hey, you know what's a good idea? We ought to start looking out for the men and women on the front lines of this thing. There isn't any of that going on. That's going to be left up to us. And Brian's right. We've got a long road ahead of us. And one of the things that One Voice United does do well is we forecast out. We try to really pride ourselves in forecasting where our industry's going, where our profession is going, because we have to be nimble. We have to be able to leapfrog to get into the middle of those conversations that determine what's going to happen to our folks on the front lines, what's going to happen to our men and women. And if we leave it up to them to make the decision, it's right back to prove it. Just prove it,
Right. You guys have always been about that initiative. I mean, obviously, the job we work, the danger is you can't react. You can't wait for someone else to step up. And it's funny because I like what Bryce said, as well as you, Andy, is that there are states that are ahead. And it seems like the states that are behind don't look to those states, you know, which I think, like, if you got a state, like, let's say the state I'm in or a state you're in, and they're moving forward, you figure those that are behind would look to those states and say, yo, we got to catch up. But they don't. I remember in some of the COVID concerns, you know, when we started developing our practices and we started moving forward, there were some states that got hit maybe a little bit later that, you know, they had the chance to prevent. They had the chance to get their resources, but they didn't because, again, even though, you know, in other states, corrections is being hit hard, you're still not taking it seriously until it happens. And then you're in reaction mode when you could have prevented. So, I mean, Brian, right now, the big thing is especially what you guys are trying to do is let's prevent instead of react. I mean, would that be correct?
Absolutely. Absolutely. We have to be progressive with the way we think. That's what's killed corrections for my entire 40 years in this business, is it's always been a reactionary business. Wait till it hits the fan and then get the rags. You know, I mean, that's really what it's been like. And that's insane, especially when you're dealing with so many lives and so many people's, you know, potential getting injured and all the trauma we have to go through. The time has got to change in corrections, and you can see some of it. Anecdotally, I was looking at the statistics of where the most line of duty deaths have occurred from COVID-19. And you can take a look at the states that have been hit the hardest, and you can compare populations of the number of officers in those states. And what you're going to find is what I found is that in union states, there have been fewer COVID LODD deaths per officer than there have been in non-union states. Now, that doesn't mean it's the union. What it means is it's the voice. There's somebody there with a voice. Somebody else is expressing that concern, not one individual or two individuals or three individuals, but somebody actually has a voice that can say, no, I'm talking about 4,000 guys and gals here, right? And that is a strength that we can build on as one voice to give them that power of the voice, where they don't have that other representation, where we can come in and help and provide them with the research and the information and that voice, that public awareness of what we do, and that we're all in this together across this country, whether you're in the prison in Fairbanks, Alaska, or in Guam, you know, or up in the winds of Maine. We all do this together, and we need to react in that way, and we need to act that way, and we need to plan that way. It's one of the reasons that I got so heavily involved as One Voice is their leadership assembly. They're bringing people, some of our best leaders in the country, guys and gals with great levels of experience, and bringing them together to not only look at the issues and deal with what we're dealing with today, but to look forward into what are we going to face going on. You look at the indicators right now, and they're saying that within the next 10 years, 7% of the correction officers won't be here anymore. We're going to have a decline of about 7% of the occupation, the number of jobs available. You look at community corrections, and they're projecting a 9% increase. Right? You're looking to start to see movements to put inmates with mental health issues in segregated institutions. Well, you're going to need training for that. Well, we have to look forward to what's going to happen in the future of corrections and prepare ourselves for that eventuality to make sure that we can continue to do the jobs we do every day, protect the public, and hopefully get into more of a rehabilitation mode and kind of shy away from the punishment as much. I'd like to see that happen.
You know, you said something very powerful. I don't want to make sure we say it again, is you said it's not about the union, it's about the voice. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if Andy heard you say that before, but we kind of were like, whoa, Andy, what was your thoughts on that real quick when he said that? Because we both had a bit of a reaction to that. That was very powerful, Brian.
No, he's absolutely right, because it's about the profession coming together and hitting the brakes on some of the stuff and saying, we've got to pull ourselves together collectively. Now, the unions are all super important. That's a little bit to Brian's point, because they were able to be a conduit for those voices.
Exactly.
And One Voice wants to be the same conduit. We don't take membership dues or anything, Tony. This is really all about us providing a platform for our entire profession to come together. This isn't about trying to take dues or trying to get membership. We don't have membership. What we have is a collective group of professionals, some of the most powerful in the United States, as Brian said, starting to come together and saying, I've got to do this for my folks at home, but at the same time, I'm a powerful leader and I have a strong voice. And I want to put that towards the collectiveness. Whether somebody has a union or not, we know what's best in this profession. We know what it's lacking. We know how the narrative has to change for all of us. So we have to come together and think through strategy to get in front of everything that's hitting us all at the same time across the United States, whether you got a union or not. But union is super important. We just have to utilize it as a conduit like it should be. It's important, like Brian said.
What's great, Tony, is we're bringing the power of those unions together. We're working with some of the biggest, most powerful unions in the country that represent correctional officers and bringing that total intellect and that years of experience and knowledge together. And it's got tremendous potential.
Yeah, I love, again, also what Andy said, the union being that conduit, being that voice for the people. And I noticed even when we did the event a few years back, you had people that were there that weren't just frontline. You had people that cared about the people that they were responsible for, and have you seen that shifted this last year, Brian? Did we lose a bit of that, or did we gain that, or?
I think it's really hard to say right now, Tony. I think we've been stagnant for 15 months. Everybody's been in lockdown. There really hasn't been a lot of, progressive movement in any of the areas that we'd like to see. So I want to wait and see how things start to turn.
All right, and so let's. Last time, 2018, last one I was at, it was great. It was a beautiful event. We got a chance to kind of interact with everyone. I got a chance to, definitely meet with some of the best, take some pictures with some of these heroes, and then just to kind of be able to, get that recognition. And it was great because the recognition, even though we didn't get a lot of public attention, that's fine. The recognition was us from different states, kind of just getting an understanding of what it is that we do. And the importance of that was we were bringing each other together. Because one thing about corrections, guys, is that we kind of work in these silos and we're really not very consistent, not like you see with other law enforcement professionals. So this was great to kind of see everybody get together and maybe discuss some differences and similarities. So now this year, we have an upcoming event, correct? Is that Friday? So what exactly is happening Friday, Brian? What do we got?
We're having our candlelight virtual vigil. And that's been put together, and the amount of people, I wish we had the time for me to name the amount of people that it's taken to put this together and all the volunteers and all the work they've done, from gathering the names to preparing the videos to reading them off for the presenters. It's been a phenomenal effort by a lot of people. And what we'll be doing is at 7:00, and you'll be able to, I know your listeners and those people who watch your show will be able to get the links from this. What we're doing at 7:00, we'll be going live. And we will be reading off the names of all of the officers and staff members who have succumbed to COVID-19 in the line of duty. We have 13 different presenters who are leaders in the industry and leaders in labor all across the country who will be reading those names. We want to memorialize the officers. And we want to make sure that as many people who can turn in will tune in to join with us as we pay tribute to their incredible sacrifices, and that we let their family members and their coworkers know that we're there for them. That this is a nation of correctional officers, that they don't stand alone, whether it's in their county or their state. There's all of us that are with them, over 400,000 of us that wear the uniform, and another 200,000 plus who work side by side with us as essential personnel. We're family. And when it comes to this, we need to be together for this. We need to honor these men and women, to never forget what happened, to make sure that we dedicate ourselves to doing everything we can to making sure this doesn't happen again, that we're better prepared going forward. And that's what Friday night's event is about, to honor them.
Now, Brian, real quick, so I know people, so they want to access this. So now the links in the description I'm going to get, it's going to be ACOIN, it's going to be National Medal of Honor.
No, do this. I'll tell you what, the best thing to do is have your audience go to www.onevoiceunited.org. That's it. If you go there, everything pops right up. You'll be able to get the link. You'll be able to get the promotional video. You'll be able to get the list of the names of officers and staff who've succumbed. All of that will be right there on the website.
Okay, guys. So on the description, as you heard, which is going to be the One Voice link, which will give you access to everything. Now, let me ask you a question. Will this also be found on social media on any of the like Facebook sites? Will that be done live there where people can go on Facebook, and will it be shared out? Can they join? Whatever would it be under One Voice? Is that the Facebook group? Or
Andy, you want to explain the PR work you've done on this, because there's a lot of work that's been done to get this out.
Yeah, anybody will be able to go to the website and get onto it there. It's also going to be on YouTube. They can share those links. They can send those links to friends and others to put on Facebook. There's an actual. We can give you what we can give you, Anthony, is the invitation and the Facebook invitation and the YouTube, along with the link for our website. We can give you that entire thing.
Right. So what I'm going to do is, if you give me a picture of the invitation, I'll hang it up on my community board for YouTube, and then I'll also distribute it through the social Facebook pages and LinkedIn. So if I get that hopefully today, I'll be able to have that up shortly, and then I'll probably send it out again on Friday. Now, what's the YouTube channel?
I don't know offhand. I'm not a tech savvy. You're Anthony. You would run circles around me, dude. I'm old school. I'm not as old as Brian.
It is but you are going to send me the invite.
Yeah, I'll send you the.
So I just want to make sure we're clear on this, because this is definitely something we want to be a part of. A couple of ways. So I got the link in the description, which is the One Voice. That's going to give you access to everything right there and then. So if you want to check it out today, but again, the visual is going to be on Friday. What's the time on Friday?
7 p.m. But also, what's good about this, Tony, too, if you can't make it at 7 p.m. or if you're working or whatever, you're going to be able to go to the website anytime after that 7 p.m. showing, and you'll be able to view that at any time you care to view it.
From start to finish.
Right. So the live viewing is 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, direct access right through the One Voice link. But I will also post up on the community boards. And guys, I think that if you do get a chance to kind of also check it out on the other social media platforms, there'll be a community there, so you guys can share your thoughts and, your feelings, because it's going to be an emotional day. There's a lot of fallen heroes, and I am sure there's a lot of people that know these fallen heroes. So I think it's going to be great to kind of give them this tribute, because it hasn't happened, guys. It hasn't happened. So this is a great thing that you guys are really putting together. And before we come to a close, I want to ask something else here. So obviously, hopefully things go back to normal soon, and we're able to kind of take this, and go outwards. Maybe again, last time we did it in Oklahoma, I don't know where we'd be again, but this is definitely something where we need to see each other. We need to be connected, and we need to keep that family going. But where do you see, One Voice? Where do you see the National Medal of Honor? Where do you see corrections, just in general, the next few years? Where are we headed, or where do you want it to go? And is it possible? So we'll go with Brian first.
Well, let me say this right off the top. I don't want to go back to normal. Normal didn't work. It hasn't worked. 40,000 assaults a year, 156 suicides. It doesn't work. Normal doesn't work. We need to go back and change things. We need to start taking a look at the real core principles of what we're doing behind the walls and what we need to do to move forward, what the future holds, what's working and what isn't working. And that's really where we need to be going. And that's what One Voice is focused on. Our Medal of Honor, from what I understand, will be going back to our normal procedures next year. Hopefully, we won't have another year like this one. I hope we never have another year like this one. So we'll go back to our normal procedures, and we will be honoring, 3 officers, a supervisor, and a staff member next year in Washington, D.C. But, we're also never going to forget this year and those people who have lost. But moving forward, it's got a lot of work to do, Tony. Normal hasn't worked, so let's move. We got to get better. I
know you got 2 good things, man. Normal doesn't work. I love it. Union's got to be that. It's about the voice. Very powerful stuff today, Brian. I'm feeling it, man. I really am. Hey, Andy, what's your thoughts about the future?
I think, just as Brian said, I think a year from now, we'll probably start to meet again in different kinds of forums, and everybody should take advantage of when there's opportunities to come together in different forums. I know there's other groups out there, not just ours, that pulls corrections staff and professionals together to have conversations about our industry, about our profession, and how we move it forward. People should take advantage of that. They really should. And hopefully we're going to be putting some things together in the future that make a lot of sense when it comes to professions coming together and really starting to map out what the future looks like for our profession. And how do we have a national approach to some of these issues that we're all facing, that's killing all of us and what's affecting all of our families. when we go home at night. So hopefully that's in the future for us.
Right now, in closing, guys, I was wondering if you can answer one more question, and then if you can give everybody your information, like your emails and stuff, in case they want to reach out. But I was wondering in closing, and I'll go with Brian first, if you could just, in closing, just tell me, I mean, because you guys have both been out of the profession for a little bit of time now. I want to ask you, why do you still remain in the fight? Why is this so important to you? And then after you answer, if you can give your contacts, in case somebody wants to reach out to you. So Brian, do you mind answering that question?
I honestly think that once you've done this job for about 5 years or so, I think once you hit around that 5-year mark, that's what it was for me. I wouldn't say it became an obsession, but seeing what I had seen and knowing what I know, it just seemed like the men and women that do this job were so under-recognized, were so, in many cases, poorly trained and poorly equipped and putting their lives on the line. And I saw too many things to not want to step up. That's not my personality. So first off, I got involved in the union and helped start our own union, and then started working with people on the national stage. And I realized then that the problems that I was seeing at MCI Norfolk, where I worked, they were seeing in California, they were seeing in Michigan, they were seeing in Jersey. It's universal to the profession. And that made me realize, well, if these problems are universal, then the solution should be kind of universal too. So we need to start looking at what's working and what's not working. And that really got my passion going. And as we started to get a few successes here and there, as you start to win a couple of things and you start to get more recognition for the profession and you see a little bit of progress, it pushes you onward. But, it's a foxhole mentality too, Tony. You know that. It's like they tell you, the military, brave women and men in the military, what's the first thing they want to do when they're injured and they're back stateside? They want to get back to the boys and gals out back in the field. They want to get back to their troops. It's the same way with a lot of correctional officers. I had an interview the other day where a newspaper person asked me that very question. Why do you do this? Why do guys do this job and gals do this job? It's loyalty to each other. It's loyalty to the profession. It's loyalty to an ideal that we really firmly believe that we're protecting the public, and that given the right tools, we can help turn some lives around. The issue is being given the right tools, finding them. And that's what keeps me going, searching for those tools.
Now, Brian, if somebody wants to reach out to you, how could they do so?
Very easy. Brian at onevoiceunited.org. That's simple.
So, and it's Brian at onevoice.org.
The voiceunited.org. Onevoiceunited.org.
Awesome. Hey, Brian, that was a great speech, man. Hey, Andy, same thoughts. I mean, you're retired. I mean, why continue to fight this?
Well, I'm still the executive director for Michigan Corrections Organization, number one. But you know what? More than that, I founded One Voice United because I felt like the landscape was changing. Through my 30 years working in and around prisons, I've watched it change. And everything I read and everything I saw, it didn't include the voice of corrections officers and frontline staff. And the more I traveled in many circles talking about the plights that we all have, as Brian said, they all seemed like there was a lot of alignment. And in a state-by-state case, it didn't feel like we were making headway because we were siloed, as you mentioned earlier. And it felt like to me that in some cases, it's just because we haven't taken the time to really meet together and say, there's some issues that are killing all of us. And how do we approach that as an industry? How do we approach that? It's 400,000 of us, not to mention everybody on the periphery, that if they got involved because of who it affects and because of the ripple effect that it has on us, like wellness, for instance, that's an issue that all of us can agree on. And to change the conditions we work in means we all have to come together and change those conditions. Now, the criminal justice advocates have a list of reform items. I've never once seen a list of corrections officers' reform items. And guess what, folks? Reform is happening. and we're getting left behind because we don't have a list of reforms of our own. They're changing the system that we work in daily and without us in mind. We need to come together. We need to formulate our own list of demands when it comes to reform. Don't just put the brakes on and be afraid to even have a conversation because of the word reform. They're doing it without us. We need to be in that conversation so that we can help shape what our work looks like, what means something to us. If you're going to reform a system, you ain't leaving me out. And I don't want to leave out the men and women that do this job. It's one of America's hardest, most difficult, dangerous jobs. We need to change the narrative so folks know exactly who we are. We're neighbors, part-time fire department, part-time police, Little League, and Red Cross workers. We're all of that. But they don't know that. They look at us and the picture's been painted by the media and others because we've allowed it. Anthony, we haven't been good enough leaders in our industry, and it's time that we come together. So that's all I really want in this. I want to give back to a profession that's provided me and my family a very humble living. And I don't want that just to go away.
And Andy, if somebody wanted to reach out to you?
Andy at onevoiceunited.org, same as Brian's.
You know, guys, we're on the same page. I guess just my closing thoughts is I started Tear Talk because it was like a voice for the voiceless. I mean, one of the very first things I came up with, like the motto, back in 2015, I believe, is when we started doing the radio. The channel, YouTube wasn't until about 2017, was it's time for our voices to be heard. And I noticed it's what you guys said, you know, when someone said there's a problem in my state, but I can't say anything. Well, I could, and I'm from California. You know, I could speak for you, but then in turn, you have to speak for me. You know, let's help each other and we could be each other's voice. And then to kind of in 2018 and sit with you, and I believe it was Jeremy,
Yeah.
you know, if I remember, and just to see that, holy crap, there it is. Everything we've been trying, it's right there in that one voice. This isn't about I do for you, you do for me. It's about we all do for each other, you know, and just see where that goes. And I think you guys were the first. I think it was you guys definitely were the first group that brought the civilians in and then even said the same concerns the inmates have, we have. I mean, you brought it up to such a point that no one could fight it. You know, all they had to do was just get involved. And if I could just end on this, guys, you can't whisper and expect change to happen. You got to go on the mountaintop and you got to fucking scream. You got to scream until you become annoying, you know, and then someone turns around and says, what is it? You know, what is it? And to be honest with you guys, today, I heard your scream. And you were at the highest part of the mountain. So I really want to thank you on behalf of what I do. And I'm sure my followers here, you guys continue to fight for the people that don't have a voice. And for those that are watching it, it'd be good for them to kind of comment that thank you. As always, guys, the show is Tear Talk. If you haven't, please subscribe, interact, engage, comment, hit that bell. Bell's going to notify you every time I post a video. Stay safe.